Hey everyone, time for another Tyranid Tactica video. Now I know the last video we did was about the the basics of building a Tyranid list. So this time we're actually going to go through the process of building a 1500 point list of Tyranids. So I'm actually going to build a list, show you the selections, and explain why I took them. And hopefully this can give you some ideas when building your own list. But please keep in mind too, this is a lot to do with my own meta. As you've seen, it's a lot of Eldar, Dark Eldar, Necrons were there before, but Imperial Guard and Tau. Just blank there. But yeah, so keep in mind that is my meta, and I'm sure that everyone's is different. So a lot of what I pick is based on what I play against and what works for me. So if you have anything else to add, please toss it in the comments. Helps some new players out, or if you're an experienced player and you feel there's something else that you need to share that I left out, by all means, please do so. The more we can build on this, the better we can all improve. So I'm going to go ahead and build my list here, and we'll take a look at my selections. So starting out here, the selections I went with to make my HQ was the Flying Hive Tyrant with the Brainleech Devourer loadout, and in addition a Tyranid Prime. Now it's a little bit of proxying here. The kit that I put on him is actually with Bone Swords and a Devourer with the Norn Crown, and the Flyrant is actually what you see there. The one thing I did add on the Flyrant is Hive Commander, which I'm going to actually use in regards to my troop selection. So in total, excuse me, right here it is 430 points for my HQ selection. I'm not going to give you individual points, as you'll have to check your own codex, or if you don't have one, you'll have to go out and purchase it yourself. But I actually went here and decided to go with the Flyer. That way I can use him for anti-air, and overall it's our best bang for the buck HQ choice, as I mentioned in the last video. So for me, he's up quite often in most of my list. Also being that I play against a lot of Eldar, Tau, and Imperial Guard, he's rather effective, and of the HQ choices we have, he's most likely to actually have an impact on the table. But now for Warlord though, I do use the Tyranid Prime as my Warlord, so this lets me be a little bit more aggressive using the Flying Hive Tyrant. So this is a selection I chose for this list. Kind of give you the roles that they'll be playing there. The Prime, as I mentioned, being the Warlord, won't be used in too much of an aggressive role. He'll be more of a backfield synapse node, and also with the Norn Crown, he can actually provide a huge synapse bubble, which is great. So this is the HQ choice. After HQ, I usually go with my heavy support choices and decide who's going to be my heavy hitters or anti-infantry. So it's going to go ahead and take a look at the heavy support choices that I chose for this 1500 point list. Then I'm taking a look at my heavy support selections. As you can see here, I went with the Tyranofex and the two Biovores. I usually run with these guys. I found these two are extremely effective together. I find the Tyranofex is excellent on the table, just in terms of anti-infantry and just being a walking tank to get up the table, and even can charge into vehicles as he advances up. The 2+ save makes him extremely durable, and plus the acid spray is excellent as well, being it's torn. I went ahead and stuck the electroshock grubs on him. It's a cheap upgrade that I feel is pretty not necessary, but to get his max effectiveness out of him, you want to roll with them, or either that or take him with adrenal glands. I used adrenal glands before, and I haven't found they're too effective. I play against a lot of fast vehicles, so usually they're a little far far away for me to catch them. So usually I go with the double templates, as I use them mostly in an anti-infantry role. And over there you can see my Biovores, which obviously is anti-infantry. So I most commonly use my heavy support slot as a really anti-infantry role. I only currently have one Carnifex, so for me the options are kind of limited for taking up the Carnifex beat stick just up the table with the Twin Link Devourers, which is a great option if you have it. So I went ahead and chose these two here, which came into a total of 265 points. So between the heavy support and the HQ section of my list, it's a pretty big chunk out of my list, but excuse me, the options that I chose here are pretty effective. The Biovore is usually safe in the backfield, especially with the Tyranid Prime close by. He can kind of be a nice synapse node for them. And also the Tyranofex is just excellent going up the table. It's also great to use him too, walking up, say, in the direction where the Flying Hive Tyrant went. Usually the Flying Hive Tyrant pops a transporter to, or maybe hunting vehicles, depending on what the role you're using him for and the army you're playing against. So you can send the Tyranofex up behind him, sort of as a cleanup crew to kill any infantry that might pop out. But those are some of the options you have for them. Keep in mind, you gotta know who you're playing against. So this list, for example, is built as just a general all-comers list, so it probably wouldn't be great against everything, but for the Tyranid Codex, based on my experiences, it's pretty durable, and well, this list is, excuse me, I found it's pretty durable, like the overall build here. But that's my heavy support choices. So usually after I build the heavy support choices, I move into the troops section, which is one of the most important, as it's what will be holding our objectives. So let's go ahead and see what I built, or I selected for the troops choice. Okay, so here's my troops section of the army. So the troops section here comes in at a total of 450 points. So it's a pretty big section to list, obviously, as you want to have a solid choice here to hold objectives. So the roles these guys usually play, we'll start off talking about the warriors on the right side there. So the loadout I went with them is having the Barbed Strangler and 2 Devourers, and they all have Scything Talons. You know, they show Death Spitters there, but just ignore that. So the role I usually excuse me, use for them is sending them in the backfield or the midfield, depending on what I need to do with them. But usually they're around that area, usually looking after Biovores or Gaunts. But the plan I would go at this list with the Prime with the Norm Crown would be to have him excuse me, hide in the middle of the Gaunts and use them as a shield. That way he can provide a solid synapse node, and also it's a huge scoring unit, so he provides them fearless. In being that he's the warlord, he can prevent an easy warlord kill and also hold an objective pretty solidly. That way you can keep the Tervigon away from the Termagants, which, as much as you'd think you'd want them to be near each other, it's kind of a bad thing if the Tervigon dies. Now the role of the Tervigon in this list is I chose Hive Commander on the Flying Hive Tyrant, so that way I can outflank with the Tervigon. So I used the Tervigon more of a disruption unit, so he can come in, and now that the rules have changed for him in the 6th edition codex, we can actually spawn with him after he moves, so we can walk on and then spawn. So I use him as a way to get into the backfield and steal objectives of the opponent, and plus I stuck on the Miasma Cannon and also the Electroshock Thorax Swarm. So that way he can come in, and if there's any infantry that might be close to the side of the table edge that he comes on, he can flame them, or even if there's a vehicle, he can roast them with the Electroshock Grubs, and maybe if you're lucky roll a 6, penetrate it, or even just take a hull point off of it, at least chip away at things. But it definitely takes some heat off the rest of your army if you can get them in there. The only risk to this is you can't guarantee them coming in anymore, being that we don't really have a way to roll for reserve, like any bonuses to reserves compared to our old codex. But I usually roll in the strategic table anyway, especially when running this sort of list. So that's how I play the troops choices here. That way you have a good solid set for backfield objective holders with the large blob of Gaunts, and the warriors can play a mid to backfield role holding objectives. And also you could switch it around too. I mean, with the amount of Gaunts there being attached with the Prime, it's really hard to get them off an objective, especially with the Prime keeping them fearless and also preventing that warlord kill. And excuse me, and with the warriors babysitting the Prime, that way you have all your non-synapse creatures covered. So really this kind of covers all your edges here. Excuse me. And as for psychic powers too, which we'll talk about in a different video, my thoughts on them and my opinion about the Tyranid powers. With the Tervigon, unless you roll Catalyst, I would generally take the minion with him, as he gets into the backfield of your opponent's edge when outflanking and spawning Gaunts. I usually try and get the Gaunts as far away as I can from him, and using the minion, that way you can buff up his synapse range, that way the Gaunts can still stay in without taking the impact of the backlash. But at least that's how I play him. If he was in, say, with the main core of the army, if I rolled Onslaught or even the Horror, I may keep it, depending on who you're playing as well. You got to keep in mind about who you're up against. So if you know you're up against, say, even Tau, the Horror can actually be pretty useful to pin them, just at, say, of a low leadership, as you can actually pin Riptides. They're not fearless, they are a monstrous creature, but that's definitely a huge bonus. If you got, say, Psychic Shriek or anything like that, or Warp, or I guess you can't use Warp Blast as it's Master Level 2. But anyways, I would use Dominion on him most often. So that's how I would play my troops. Usually after the troops, it's a toss-up between picking up my elites and fast attack. Usually I'll fill out the elite slot first, being that's pretty important. Excuse me. I don't have any Venom Thrips yet. I really need to get a hold of them. I think if all goes well, by the end of next week I might have 2 Carnifexes and 2 Venomthropes on the way, so we'll have to wait and see if that comes through. But we'll go ahead and take a look at the elite slot, and being that I have my Flying Hive Tyrant, it's on a dire need to get, say, some of the other flyers in there, although it definitely would help, so that's the reason for me going to the elite slot next. So let's take a look at my elites I selected. Okay, so here's my elite section. So for the elites, I went with 2 broods of Zoanthropes, with 2 Zoanthropes in each brood. The reason I went for this is usually just because I like the psychic buffs they can give out if you get lucky and get, say, Catalyst, and also they can be used as kind of a more of a redundancy role in case, say, the warriors get killed or you really need that extra bit of synapse. And also they're fairly useful offensively. Warp Blast is great being that it's AP 3 and we don't have too much in our army with high AP. I think the only other thing is, aside from close combat, that is the Exocrine's Plasma Blast. But on a whole, I definitely use these guys more offensively more often than not, but they definitely can fill that defensive role, which is what I like about the Zoanthropes. They can be either offensive or defensive. Being that you got Warp, Lance, and Blast, they can play offensively, so it's not too much depending on psychic rolls. I know the role is kind of defined by what you get there, which is kind of irritating, but on a whole, they can fill that offensive need. So that's usually how I roll with Zoanthropes. I use Hive Guard every now and then. I used to use them a fair amount in 5th edition, but that hit to ballistic skill really kind of hurt them, and sometimes it's hard to really get their points worth points worth out of it, or just ensure that they'll be effective. So I find rolling with 2 broods of Zoanthropes is great. You might find otherwise, but so far in most of my games, at least one of the broods is pretty efficient at taking out vehicles or popping some elite infantry there. But on a whole, Zoanthrope's definitely great, excellent for mid to backfield synapse nodes, or even a forward synapse node if you can get them up somewhere and just kind of keep them in cover, hidden from line of sight, and just provide a little central node for synapse, or even sticking Dominion on them as well. So last but not least, I had some extra points, some extra points to use, so I went ahead and filled out my fast attack slot, so we'll go and take a look at that. The elite section came out to a total of 200 points between all the Zoanthropes, so let's take a look now at my fast attack selection. So for the fast attack slot, I went ahead and used the points on a Hive Crone. I found the Hive Crone's been really effective when running with the Flyrant. It helps take the heat off him, or the Flyrant helps take the heat off the Crone even. And the Crone's great with the Vector Strike for killing off elite infantry, popping vehicles, getting rid of those annoying Jinx saves that can help keep vehicles alive. And it's even got the missiles too, in case you place another flyer, you can help take them down. On a whole, the Crone's definitely great. For the fast attack slots, I could have went with Gargoyles, but being that I feel pretty confident in the units I chose, Gargoyles are more of a disruption or screening unit, whereas I got the Tervigon, that can hopefully come in turn 2 outflanking, can provide some disruption there and help take the pressure off the rest of my forward forces, such as the Tyranid or Warriors or Zoanthropes, depending on who's moving up the table. So that's why I went ahead and chose the Crone, and all around he's extremely effective, and for the points cost, it's silly not to take a Crone, but usually I'll take a Crone or Gargoyles. So, So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the full army here and just give a quick review of everything here, and just about how I plan to play it all together. There's my 1500 points of Tyranids. So, I feel on a whole this is a pretty great list for general all-comers. Definitely not insane tournament quality, but then again, this is just, we're not talking about a tournament list here. This is more of a fluffy, but yet still semi-competitive list. But it also depends on your description of competitive. We don't have any much of a tournament scene around here, unfortunately, so I myself haven't got a chance to really play any tournaments, but I've done a fair amount of reading and kind of know what works, what doesn't. So a lot of my list building skills came from reading forums as well, so if you're a Tyranid player, definitely check out the Tyranid Hive forum. It's where I learned a lot about the Tyranids when I first started 2 years ago, and those guys are great, extremely friendly forum, so definitely recommend you check that out if you need any help with anything. or even suggest you're looking for suggestions on a list you're not too sure about, or if you have an upcoming tournament. The guys there are great, and I definitely recommend going there. But anyway, with this list, I definitely feel it's a strong all-comers list. You kind of have all your bases covered. You have a solid amount of troops, hold objectives. You got the outflanking, outflanking Tervigon to cause some disruption in the enemy's backfield. Biowars and Tyranid Tactica are easily gonna mop up any infantry that's out there. And between the Hive Crone and Flying Hive Tyrant, you should be well equipped enough to deal with any vehicles, especially with the Tervigon outflanking. But again, it all depends on who you're playing against. You can definitely switch up the list based on your own meta, but against the group that I usually am facing, again, Tau, Dark Elder, Imperial Guard, and Eldar. So when playing against them, it's a strong list to run here. If we're just doing all comers, if we're going more competitive, there's definitely some things I'd swap out. But on a whole, I feel it's a pretty strong list, and I hope this gave you some insights to building some lists and perhaps just building an all comers list. I'll definitely do some more list building videos. If you have any requests, say you have need some help with the list, or you have a list that you'd want my opinion on, or anything like that, definitely post it up, and I'll do what I can to help. Again, check out the Tyranid Hive if you want some more in-depth reviews on list building. I don't play tournaments, but I've done a lot of reading and follow a lot of the battle reports for them, so I have a fair idea of what's competitive and what's not. So I definitely, if you need any opinions of that, definitely post in the comments, and I'll see what I can do for you. So I hope you enjoyed this edition of Tyranid Tactica and building a general all-comers 1500 point list. Next video we're going to be doing is going to go over deployment on the table. So we're actually going to stick with this list right through the rest of the series here. So we'll go over deployment, and we'll get a sample enemy list to play against. So I might just do up a quick Eldar list so we can see what we're playing against and how we would deploy against it, just to give you an idea of how to utilize this list against certain opponents. So we might do a few deployment videos, say against Eldar, Imperial Guard, Dark Elder, and just so that way you can see the kind of variety of how to deploy and whatnot. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you haven't subscribed, please do so, and look forward to more videos coming out from us. And thanks again for watching. Happy wargaming.